Beautiful Things by Hunter Biden. Beautiful Things. Sounds kind of sentimental, doesn't it? American lawyer and son of the US President Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, puts out a memoir. I've known the extremes of success and ruin. With my mother and baby sister killed in a car accident when I was 2, my father suffering a life-threatening brain aneurysm and embolism in his 40s, and my brother dying way too young from a horrible brain cancer, I come from a family forged by tragedies and bound by remarkable, unbreakable love. There are some things I have began to search for in political memoirs nowadays that I look for in really any memoir. On top of what I look for in really any memoir, what we can learn, what do I see in my past that's like this, and how can I better reflect on it? How does this help me? What about this inspires me? When it comes to these books, there are two things. One, always focus on WIIFM. What's in it for me? I mean, you spend your money on these books. You should be getting every drop of value that you can out of them. And two, it can be that hard to do that because when you read books, you're compressing decades and decades of time and experience and everything into days. So I'm doing that with memoirs naturally, but with political memoirs, I have to admit, they're a little bit of a different animal. Politics, in a way, it's almost kind of like a type of power. And where do these odds and ends I just listed, where do those tie into that power? What has Hunter been through that Joe Biden hasn't? A lot, because I know there are people who are going to unsubscribe from this channel just because I reviewed this book. And a son is not his father, and a daughter is not her mother. You're not like your parents. Are you? This may all sound kind of vague, but I want to just take a second to look at this from 30,000 feet with you before zoning in on the chapters here. Also, like A Promised Land by Barack Obama, or even Green Lights by actor Matthew McConaughey, what does Beautiful Things, like why did he call this book Beautiful Things of any other title? And how does this tie into the whole power, reflection, insight, inspiration, manifesto I'm finding in other memoirs and haphazardly trying to describe here? I want to address all of this in this video. You're going to find my thoughts on the chapters, what surprised me, what I learned. Is this book worth getting? I'm also going to go over some standout quotes, who I recommend the book to, and what books to maybe check out next. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Samuel, and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, then make sure to smash that like button. Chapter 1 is called 17 Minutes. It's about the death of Beau. So first things first, if you can't tell already, the writing style is definitely there. Also, again, with the inspiration, looking at the odds of like Beau's success or survival in a way that's kind of like looking at down the barrel of a 45 against your own will and thinking, I'm gonna survive this even if I don't. That mindset was beyond superstition for Beau. He made his way to the hospital every day like a pilgrim visiting some sacred site, convinced only good would come of it, that he would be cured. The doctors and staff, most of whom we knew well from his previous surgeries, became almost like saint-like figures capable of transcendent things. Also, in case I didn't say in the beginning of the review, this is such a sad book. Like, it's messed up. Maybe not the exact same kind of messed up as Too Much and Never Enough by Mary Trump, but just like it. Very messed up. The next chapter is called Requiem. It's very sad. Someone said to him after Beau's death, "Your brother made it possible for me to not think about killing myself." That's crazy. Not crazy like mentally ill, but I mean like, wow. It almost made me wonder, is there a part of the book where Hunter speaks just as vividly about like him and his family's victories that they had throughout the years? Also, Beau died in like 2015 when Hunter was, what, like 45? Which I'm not sure why I'm pointing this out. It's just kind of something unconventional I noticed. I'm surprised he started the book with that event. Usually an event like that you'd find it a little bit later into one's memoir. To say that it left a tremendous imprint on Hunter's sense of self and purpose and view of the world would be an understatement, but I'm surprised that it's what this book started with. The next chapter is called Growing Up Biden, which is about growing up as a Biden alongside Beau. You can tell how much Beau mattered to Hunter just based on how he spoke about Beau. Then you go into the drug addiction. The next chapter is called Loaded. Toward the end of this chapter, it became clear to me when I read online this book is written to humanize addiction sufferers. This is what people meant. And I couldn't help thinking at first that it's written for other reasons than just that, because the book is in general not just about his struggle with addiction. And by the way, I've said this before, whether addiction is a disease or a choice or whatever, I always felt like regardless of what it is, it's a terrible thing that we can and must do something about, and I hope that's something we can all agree on. The next chapter is called Falling, which is easily one of the most depressive, maybe haunting chapters I've ever heard about alcohol in any memoir ever. If I didn't say this yet, I don't actually know that much about addiction, so I don't think that my opinion here really deserves to hold that much weight, but I can see why it might be a word I'm not a huge fan of, a little triggering to those in recovery, NA and AA. I've known alcoholics over the years especially, and once upon a time, I self-harmed. 7 years ago, I've been 7 years clean. If you do this, let me get super real with you for just a second. I know that it can be really difficult, especially if you're like me and you have this natural tendency to keep things bottled up, but I will say that it gets better the second you start talking about it. Nonetheless, back on topic, kind of opening the clouds up here, I could still see why some people would consider this book a little bit triggering. In the next chapter, Burisma, he talks about his time as a functioning addict during his 5-year run with Burisma Holdings, one of the largest natural gas producers in the Ukraine, and his working with them really, despite the risks, really had seemed to do a lot with his ability to help Bo. The next chapter is called Cracked. And when I heard this chapter in the beginning, there was one word that upon entering my ears, I was like, no, 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 no. No! Feel free to guess what it was in the comments below. It's interesting what he said about like the feelings of self-loathing and shame increasing in intensity after each high falls off. The more of the drug you use, the less effective it becomes. The less effective it becomes, the less bang that you and your self-worth get for your buck. Also, that lady Rita who he lived with, she sounded like she had homelessness down to a science. Just when I thought, you know, in the next chapter, Into the Desert, there's no way this book is as much about drug addiction. I'm gonna take a second here to say that alcohol is technically a drug, and I never understood why people say alcohol and drugs. It's a drug. Why don't you just say drugs? So I'm just gonna say drug addiction, okay? Just when I thought that this book is, you know, it's not that much about his drug addiction, it can't be that much about his drug addiction. By this chapter, he's still talking about his issues with addiction, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, it doesn't matter how long someone struggles as long as the way I see it, they keep fighting. And it's really clear that Hunter Biden kept fighting no matter how long he struggled, because it was a while. There's something that happened later in this chapter that everyone seems to have an opinion on. I like putting spoilers in my reviews probably just as much as I like spoiled milk, and I don't even like unspoiled milk. And I would consider this a spoiler because it's kind of a big deal, and I won't say exactly what it is, but I will say that I hope that at the time, Hunter was asking himself, what would Bo want? For me, at least. Like, there was a negative review I saw on Audible saying that Hunter forgot to talk about this in the book. Tell it all, bro. I'm just gonna confirm here that he did talk about it in the book, although it didn't really take that much up of the chapter at all, and I feel like it's a pretty big detail. The next chapter is called California Odyssey, where he speaks about dealing, buying, smoking, and even cooking supply in California. I'll say this, the book, in conclusion, spoke disproportionately more than I thought it would about his battle with addiction, which is, for the 99,722nd time, you know, it's what it is. But a memoir like this, I was just hoping for a little bit more triumph and moments of, hey, I'm really getting somewhere. But until he met that girl Melissa, who he's still with, and that chapter with Melissa, that's just like heart melting. It's so sweet. Other than that, like, there's not really that much of a silver lining. And the only thing that's problematic about that to me is that this book is called Beautiful Things, and it's a memoir. Maybe 65 to 70% of this book is about drug use. Was that much of his life about drug use? I mean, again, it is what it is if that's the case. And I also really liked some of the stories and the people he met. Some of them maybe I didn't like, but it's interesting the roles that they played in his journey, like Rita, the homeless lady, and oh my gosh, what's that dealer's name? John. He was almost like a human form of the drug that he was doing. He would actually reinforce the addiction in a way that no other dealer did. But this is a memoir. Is this actually a memoir though? What the hell is a memoir? Is it a biography or is it something else? Because I am genuinely confused. The next chapter is called Saved. A memoir is a historical account or biography written from personal knowledge or specific sources. Well, this book is not a biography. If he's missing a bunch of details about stuff like his 5 years as interim CEO of Paradigm Global Advisors with his uncle, I think his name's James Biden, or his tax affairs being under federal investigation in December 2020. I can't help but think that there is more to Hunter Biden than his drug addiction. Like a lot more. However, and the next chapter is called, or the epilogue is called Dear Bo, which is very touching, it's very heartfelt. If Beautiful Things is not a biography, but it is a memoir, then it has to be an account. But that begs the question, what the hell is an account? What is it? I don't know. An account is a report or description of an event or experience. So today I learned that a memoir doesn't necessarily mean a biography. Basically though, I haven't checked out any other memoir where I felt the need to figure this out putting the review together. So how much of a memoir is it really? But technically, that's not a necessary question because it is a historical account, or at least a series of them. The last thing I would ever want to do in a review like this is minimize the importance of someone's background or story, or imply any lack of validity regarding their struggle, or assume that I know everything to know about an author. In fact, I never will. That is the first thing I wouldn't want in a review like this, but I can't help thinking that there's like probably so much more to Hunter Biden and his life than Beautiful Things. I don't think this was a bad book. I really don't. The writing style is there. The stories are there. The accounting of his troubles throughout the years was very open, compelling, and humble, and it even shows you that you can be an addict no matter who you are. And no one can be like, oh, this guy didn't go through hell at all. I've been through way worse. Or like, I've known other people who went through way worse. This is all an exaggeration. And I'm saying that for too many reasons to list. But most of this book is kind of hell. Like a staggering amount of it. And given everything else in it, my biggest problem is that I can't really see why it's called Beautiful Things. And he kind of clarified it in the end of the book, but he didn't really clarify it in the beginning. So this confused me a little, but this being a tribute to the trappings of addiction is certainly feasible because, like I said, 65 to 70% of the book, maybe even more, discusses it in his direct experience. I just thought that maybe there would be a smaller percentage, and there's nothing wrong with it being the percentage it is. I hope it's obvious that if I'm critiquing this, I'm really just kind of critiquing something about the book and not the author himself or anything that he went through, but please feel free to critique me in the comments. It's not like I disliked it or anything like that. Quotes. Sometimes even faith leaves you for just a second. Believing that your pain is exceptional doesn't lessen anyone else's. Crack is just an answer. It's not the answer. Sobriety is easy. All you have to do is change everything. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who doesn't think alcohol or crack addiction is that big of a deal, and maybe anyone who wants to know more about Hunter Biden. But the fact that I recommended this book just now for 2 demographics of people and listed them in that order has to mean something to the count of what I was just saying. Direction 2. If you like this book, further down the route of addiction stories is hard to say for me. Another kind of kind of memoir with some horrific moments, yet definitely sunshine on the other side, was Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. The beginning of Beautiful Things reminded me of Too Much and Never Enough by Mary L. Trump. I don't know exactly why, and for a more, again, political memoir, maybe on the blue side of things, you might like A Promised Land by Barack Obama. For the red side of things, one that just came out, I'm still thinking about reviewing it, is called On the House by John Boehner. But I will say this as well, Beautiful Things was really not political. He mentioned Trump a couple times and some things Trump did, but it was really, really not political at all. For anyone curious about that. Beautiful Things by Hunter Biden. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. If you guys buy anything through the links in the description, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.